I'm breaking all the rules tonight. Not going down without a fight. As long as I'm still breathing, doesn't matter how hard you might try. We can take this freedom. Waking up, I'm a mess, sleeping on the bathroom floor. Last night's a blur, don't know for sure, but I'm ready for another round. We're talking shit, don't hear a sound. Take a hit and pass around. By yourself, drunk like I finally don't give a fuck, 'cause I'm breaking all the rules.
Hey everybody, this is the Overpass Live. My name is Eric and I make apps. First of all, I just want to check to make sure everybody can hear me and everybody can see me. Does everybody have, anybody in the chat, let me know if you can hear me. It's been a kind of a turbulent week for me, but not so bad. So it's kind of nice that it's over. So we'll get this home. So we'll get this well. Yinabib Tube. Hey, how's it going? Azimuth, nice you can make it again. Azimuth, you're always here, like first thing. Discovery Center, namaste. Rodrigo, how's it going? I don't have headphones. So Billy's here. How's it going? Discovery Center. I want to be a hacker, not less. Okay, cool. And Viral Connection, how's it going? So yeah, this week I did a video earlier today about how I got rid of my Mustang this week, which was kind of a sad thing, but you know, once I made the decision to do it, it wasn't so bad. And it's kind of nice just to have less of stress there with that kind of thing. So now I just got like a normal, boring car. Well, it's not that. I mean, it's a normal car. It just sort of blends in. When I went to the dealership, they kept trying to put me in something else that was flashy. I said, look, I just want to get lower car payments, and they go, so what is it you're looking for? I said, well, nothing really. I mean, it was like the one car I ever, was a Mustang. So after that, I was just like, I mean, any of them will do. How about this one right here? It was just like that. So, but anyway, so that part's over. Also, I've been looking at folding phones, trying to think whether or not there's any kind of anything we could do with that in the future. I'm kind of thinking I probably won't bother it. And today, I actually had no meetings today except for this. The only appointment I had today was this one. So my plan was just to sit down and work on some of my Corona games, which are old, and I want to bring those and consolidate those into one single app as Apple wants, because basically I've just removed them all from Apple, thinking there's no reason to really do it because I can't market it properly. I can't do proper ASO if I have all of my apps in one giant app, because I can't target the different audiences that the different parts of the application does, which is the reason why it's in separate applications. It's not just because I'm spamming the store, as they would say with their 4.3 guidelines. So for ages, I've just been like saying, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. Now I'm thinking, maybe I'll just do it, at least see what it's like. It doesn't make sense to have invested all this money in the assets and all the graphic assets and all the language assets, everything that I've had done, and then I just pulled them from the Apple App Store, and it's not making any money on there. So I've been looking at that today and just kind of going through it begrudgingly going through and consolidating that code into the one application. And basically what has to happen is I have to have it so that it downloads the data. So when you make the in-app purchase, it downloads all the code from, I'm going to download it from probably AWS or something, from an S3 bucket, download the code, and then execute it locally. But as I'm finding, I can't execute the code from the directories folder because Apple doesn't allow that. So what am I supposed to do? So I have to move all the code, everything that I have in different bits of code, I have to put it all in some configuration. Oh, it's just a headache. It's a headache. It's one of these things where I was gonna sit down and drill through it, and then I wasn't able to get to it today. And I'm hoping maybe tomorrow just to come in, just have a good Saturday where I just come in and just code in. The last weekend I got up at 5 o'clock on both Saturday and Sunday working on a Facebook ad, and it felt really good. It felt, because I don't usually get up early on weekends, and I might do that again this weekend too, just because it's nice just to get that done. So let's see. So we also have Mega Man, you're sixth. How's it going? DS Bailey, freelancer. Good day, DS Bailey. Is heeking like creaking. So and viral connection. What do you think about AR apps? So okay, good question. Augmented reality apps. I mean, they've been around for a while, and it seems like I've seen a few really good AR apps, but I haven't seen any that are essential. Right? I've seen, it's like it's a technology where you think it would be really, really useful. If I look out the window, I should see all kinds of data. Nobody's really coming out with that, and I think it has to do a lot with the machine learning and things like that. So it's one of those things which is really, every time I see a new technology, I'm always thinking, is this like a gimmick, or is this something that could actually be useful? And sometimes it seems gimmicky, and sometimes they'll try to make something that's gimmicky seem useful. I remember when Silverlight came out, which Silverlight was like it was like a Flash, but for Microsoft developers. So it would run in mostly on Windows browsers. It was supposed to work in Mac, but it was only partially supported on a Mac. So I was a Silverlight developer for a while, and it was cool, but it was just like you have the nice Flash animations and everything like that. And they would try to make it out to be like an essential thing. Like they always show doctors looking at a heart diagram which spins around or something like that. But ultimately, never really saw much use for it. But it died off anyway when the iPad came out, and they dumped Flash, and Silverlight was kind of. I know there's still Silverlight out there, but it's one of those things. So when I see something like AR, I think that's really cool. It seems like it would have a lot of really practical applications, but I haven't seen anything that looked like an essential AR app yet, except for the Translate one. With the exception of the Translate, Google Translate with the AR, that is totally cool. But that's one of those things I think only Google could do. But I'm not quite. What do you guys think about that? Because I would love to be able to do a really good AR app. But I've thought about certain things. I thought, what if we could take our language games and make it so that it's it's like all around you, so you're turning around and the bubbles are going up and down, all that stuff. And that would have been pretty cool. I've seen some applications where you can measure distances and put like a couch or something in your living room. That's really cool. But I haven't actually used anything like that. And a lot of the things have to do with e-commerce. So like the Mustang one. So a couple of years ago, I downloaded the Mustang application. So you I had a picture of a blue Mustang in my driveway, and I had like a couple of years before I actually had a blue Mustang in my driveway. So that was kind of one of those cool things. But so that's one of the things I haven't really seen much about. So Abalash says, "Hey Eric, how to get into internships who learn to code themselves and are refreshers." And our freshers. I don't know. I don't know very much about internships, to be honest with you, Abalash. I've had a person come to the office a few weeks ago, actually it was last month, to talk about hiring some interns, so internships. And in the end, I didn't think it would really fit well with us. I mean, it's it might be worth training somebody up as an intern in the office and having somebody else who could help with all that kind of stuff. But then ultimately, it's like interns don't get paid a whole lot. I see my whole thing when it comes to the technology that you need to learn. I think I've always been because I went to university and I studied history, and then I had no job, so I started looking around, and then I got a job in computers, but I was really behind the curve where they thought, they had a lot of faith in the fact that I could learn things, and I was learning every day. I mean, I was picking up books. I was reading every single thing I could get my hands on, which came to, at the time it was Visual Basic and Visual Studio, and I had a 2-hour train journey each way into London, and I was borrowing books, and I couldn't afford to buy any of those computer books because they were like, 50, 60 pounds or whatever. So I couldn't afford to buy them, but I would borrow them. And sometimes I would print out MSDN articles and I would read those, and I would kind of get up to speed on like the latest technologies, because it seems like, right now, I suppose if you went to university, they're not going to teach you Flutter, right? Because you can't even really get a good book on it yet. So it's it's because it's so new, and that's the kind of thing where you could be the expert in that thing. If you went into something that was been around for a while, like Python or PHP or C# or JavaScript or whatever, there's lots of people who are experts in it. There's lots of courses on it, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of like requirements for it. Like if you're going to hire somebody, say, no, I want somebody who has a JavaScript degree or something. But I think it's the kind of thing you should be able to teach yourself. I mean, I know people who've been through schooling who can't do things as well as somebody who's just really taught themselves. That's why we have, teenage hackers that could hack into things, because they're just really dedicated, and it has nothing really to do with the education level. Well, it has everything to do with your training and being able to do it yourself. So, but it depends on what you want to do. If you want to do your own stuff, I don't think you need any of that. But if you want to get a job, then, unfortunately, you're competing with a lot of other developers, and you're competing with a lot of other developers. And when non-technical people look at a CV, that's all they know what to look at. This guy has 4 years experience. This guy has 3 years experience. Let's go with this guy with 4 years experience, right? That's all they really know. And then they get, after the interview and everything, of course. Which is why it's funny that when you apply for a job, a lot of times they'll go through the HR department or through a recruiter, and they're making decisions based on just based on what they see on the CV. So I remember ages ago. I mean, this was just being a web developer, so it was HTML, it was ASP, like classic ASP, JavaScript, HTML, everything like that. So I had JavaScript and ASP and everything on my CV, and the recruiter calls and goes, "Yeah, do you know HTML?" And I said, "Well, yeah, as part of the web thing, HTML, yes, I do know." And he goes, "Can you just put that on your CV?" And I go, "Well, it's kind of implied. It's kind of implied because I have all this stuff about the web, but yes." He goes, "Yeah, but I really need this to put on the CV. Can you do another CV where you have HTML listed there?" And I was like, it was almost somebody who didn't know what they were talking about was trying to get me a job in something that they didn't know. They didn't know anything about. And it was like this intermediary who I had to satisfy the intermediary who was not very technical, hopefully get a job with someplace which hopefully was more technical, because they knew what they were looking for. So, so getting an internship, I mean, if you can do, do that. So, let's see. Fizz007, hey Eric, how's it going? CH Development is here. Hey Eric, talk about the AI Singularity. The Singularity. I'm not too concerned about it. You know what I'm concerned about with AI? I'm not so much worried about them. Well, the Singularity, that's where we are able to. Isn't the Singularity where we're able to live forever? Is that what that is? From my understanding, where we'll be able to be conscious forever and inhabit robots or something like that, or our consciousness will be able to stay through AI. That's what it is, isn't it? I think about that, and I think about like the Terminator type stuff where the AI will take over, and whether or not we're living in a simulation and all that kind of stuff, which is really fascinating to think about. What concerns me most about AI is that at Google I/O, I think it was Google I/O last year, where they showed the voice. I think they were using Dialogflow, but the voice chat bot being able to call up and get an appointment for like a Chinese restaurant, and it didn't identify itself as a robot. And I've gotten a few of those automated calls where they don't identify themselves as AI, right? And that's the kind of thing where, and it's not because they don't identify themselves. That's fine, just whatever. But I'm thinking about we still have an economy where everybody needs to have a job, and we have fewer and fewer jobs, and it's almost like everything that someone can do is being taken away day by day by day, right? And one day it's going to be us, it's going to be the programmers, right? So like I saw a video, somebody sent me a video earlier today of a robot valet parking thing. So it was like pick up a car on a little forklift type thing and just drive it over. It was all robotic and everything like that, just to take a job away from somebody who just was lucky enough to have a job. Which I don't think is a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to take jobs away from people. I think if we could automate everything, we would all be fine, except for the people who are making money by the fact that we have that economy going. So, it's interesting to see how things will go. I wonder when my kids are my age, I wonder what their life is gonna be like. I remember being a kid and thinking there's been no new real inventions except for the microwave oven that I could think of, right? TV was like black and white, then it went to color, and then you had this other stuff, and it was like, it just seemed like the pace of technology was just kind of slow, based on what you'd seen on the in history books and stuff. And then now we got the internet. Now things are just going so fast that I wonder what it's going to be like for the kids. I mean, even just to imagine life without a mobile phone, like you just can't call somebody, right? You remember what it was like to have to wait someplace for an hour for someone to come pick you up, and if you didn't wait there, then they would end up driving all over the place. Like I had a babysitter once who was going to pick me up, and I was waiting by a corner, and I saw somebody I knew, and they said, "Hey, should I give you a ride home?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And then I got a ride home with them, and of course the babysitter was driving around for hours looking for me, and I was just sitting at home because nobody could call anybody. That's like just stuff of the past. You just get on the phone and call somebody, and it's so ubiquitous, and it just changed life so much. But I mean, we all know that. Bill Donahue. Hey Bill, how's it going? Hi Eric. I'm curious if you ever tried any ASO services agencies and what was your experience with them was. Are they any that you'd recommend? If not, how do you currently manage your ASO efforts? So Bill, I would do most of the ASO efforts myself. I've spoken to people, and I have a person on my team who helps with the ASO side of things too. But he also helps with SEO and stuff, and he just started like last month. But most of the time I do it myself. Now I've talked to ASO companies, and they're just like everything else that's app related. Once they start thinking, I mean, the price of it is just so high. So like the one ASO company I spoke to, it was London based. I got the call, I got the spiel from them. They gave me the 1 hour pitch with Zoom or whatever, and then they said, okay, so it's going to cost £4,000 for us to set everything up. It's going to be £1,000 every month after that. So, and what we'll do is we'll check your keywords, we'll do that, and we'll get you up the top of the rankings, all this kind of stuff. And to me, I thought that was way too expensive. I mean, unless they could get me to the point where I was making more than that. But for all I know, it was just promises. I mean, so many people come. I'm skeptical about somebody who comes my way and says, I can make you rich. All you have to do is give me £1,000 a month, right? And that kind of throws me a bit, where I think, yeah, I mean, after 2 months, you're fine, and I'm out, several grand. So I haven't done it, and I think it's just being skeptical about it. Now, this is one of the things why I've had people call me up and ask whether or not we would do that. Like, will you market my app for me or do ASO services for us? And I've thought about doing it like as a service, and every so often I float the idea and think, should we do something, because we could really help people out, almost like we do on the live stream, just kind of go through and do like an audit of what they could do to fix things, give some advice and that stuff. But ultimately, I don't like the idea of somebody not taking ownership of their own app. Like if somebody came to me and said, hey, can you market my app? Can you get to the top of Google? And I said, sure we can. It's going to cost £1,000 a month, which would be awesome, by the way. But if I said that, and then they said, okay, just get it to the top, and they gave me some Flappy Birds clone or some Gems game or something that's just, the market is already too saturated, all of a sudden that becomes my problem, and they don't even have to think about the content anymore. And I think it's more of a give and take. I have hired SEO people before, and that was a huge mistake. I mean, so I think I'm skeptical about these things. So I hired, actually it was an Indian company that was doing my software, and they were doing some apps for me, and they came over and goes, Eric, we also do SEO, right? I said, okay. I said, oh, really? They said, yes, we could do it. We do it for you really cheap. We'll do the SEO for you. And it wasn't that cheap. I mean, not for what I got anyway. So I paid them a bit, and basically everything was like telling me what to do. Like it was like, you have to put a button at the top that says inquiries, or and on my website. And it kept coming back to me with all these things I needed to change on the website, and content I needed to write. But then they did start to write content for me, which was totally illegible, right? It was, the English was really bad. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't like a top service or anything. So it was what I could expect. But there's something. But ultimately, it was more of a hassle than it was worth, right? I was thinking, like, I can make all these changes myself. If I have to go, I'm not going to hire somebody to give me more work to do. That's my whole thing. If you can't sit there and do this for me, I'm not going to hire you to do it. I don't need somebody to give me advice. I can get advice for free anywhere. All I have to do is read up on something. And a lot of times you get in that situation with SEO and ASO guys where all they do is they keep badgering you to change things. And you're like, you know, I'm a bit, do I seem a bit whingy today? Oh, I'm a bit moany. I'm going to cheer up a little bit. Whew. Cheer up, Eric. All right. Okay. So, Bill, but yeah, I've always been skeptical of ASO and SEO people just because of the big promises they make. Oh, we can get you to the top of Google. We've all got that email. I assume we've all gotten that email. Hey, dear business owner. God, I hate that. I hate getting an email that says, dear business owner. Dear business owner, we can get you to the top of Google. Blah, 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 blah. And you know that it's not true. If it was, then everybody would be at the top of Google, right? So it's just the same with lead generation services. I think that's the newest thing where I'm getting a lot of companies contacting me saying, we can do all your lead generation for you. I said, isn't that kind of my responsibility to do lead generation? Is it kind of my responsibility to bring leads into the company? It would be nice to be able to give it to somebody else, but ultimately, you know, that's kind of one of those things. And maybe I should delegate more of that kind of stuff, but I have not. So, Bill, has anybody out there tried an ASO service? So, Viral Connection says, can you check an app, My World AR? It's a new social media that is actually an AR in it, and basically you post in AR. Okay, so let's try that. So, this is for Viral Connection. So, let's have a look at this application. Viral, can you say, is it on Google Play? I'm going to assume it's on Google Play. Let's go to screen share. So, it's called My World AR. Okay, so let's have a look. My World AR. The first is it this one? My World. Viral Connection is this one? If you could just answer. Okay, cool. So My World AR, cool. I like the icon. Let's see. A video. Yeah, a video would be cool. So let's have a look. I don't know if you guys can hear that. That's really cool. How's it doing? So is it? I'll start. So, Viral Connection. Am I right to assume that when if I leave a post, it's actually in the place that I left it, so that I keep walking? I know I should probably download it and have a look. I don't have my Android phone. I don't think my Android phone is charged. I have a bad habit of leaving my test phones on, and then every time I go to use them, they've run out of battery. But let's see. So, see what you can't. The world's first. So 880. So you've got a good amount of reviews. You've got really good reviews here. Best app, I like it. That one's you, but that's I do my own too sometimes. Let's see. So best app, good, amazing. Okay. Let's see. 26 megabytes, 10,000 plus installs. It looks like you're doing something good. How are you marketing it? Like, because a social media app is only going to be as good as the network that uses it. So if you don't get enough users onto it, it's not really going to take off. So I'd imagine you'd have to have quite a bit of advertising. And if it's the kind of thing, where if I leave a post and it's in a certain place, you'd have to focus on a smaller area just so you can get some sort of traction. Otherwise, every time I look someplace, I won't see any posts. If that's how it works. I mean, what do the rest of you guys think? I think it looks. I mean, you've got lots of. Are you paying for ads? Because it looks really cool to me. The icon, I like the icon actually. It's an eye though, isn't it? Is that an eye? So yeah, and I think it looks pretty good. I think for me, I just can't see exactly what it does the first time through. The first time in social media history, everything is changing. The augmented social reality network is now on your phone. Post your photos in a new revolutionary way. Imagine your perfect selfie in a subway station. Cool. I mean, my only concern here is that it's gonna be, every time somebody asks me to, like a client or a prospect will call up and say they want to do a social media app, I think it's gonna be harder than you think. I mean, for me, if somebody downloads one of my apps, they can use it. It doesn't depend on how many other people have the app downloaded. Whereas if you have something that's like an Uber type of thing, or something that's dependent on other users, which is better. I mean, if something's dependent on other users, the content is always changing. They're always taking it out of their pocket. They're always checking it. Like the same way I always check Facebook. So that's a good thing. But let's see, My World AR. Is it on iOS too? Let's see. Nope. Let's see. Check App Annie. Check App Annie, my favorite tool. All right, so let's have a look here at App Annie, My World AR. So yeah, so are you on? So viral connection. Are you on iOS yet? Because I would imagine also another thing is you want to support both platforms, especially if it's social media, so that you could get. Because the more people who go into it, the better. The network effect. If you don't have the network in place, it's not going to work. So this is one of the things that I do. But at least you're doing it. Like if you could focus, like if you do advertisements, you don't want to do a global advertisement. It's the same. Again, I've worked on so many projects where it's been the kind of thing where I don't want to say what the project actually does, but it's like I always say the same thing. Uber for babysitters. That's my test one. So if I have Uber for babysitters, I say babysitters just have to go on, register as babysitters. If anybody needs a babysitter, they could go on, just check their area, select a babysitter, see a profile, give them a rating, pay them up through the app, and everything works great. It makes total sense. I've heard this idea again and again and again, not for babysitters, but for everything, because it's Uber. The problem is that when you're first starting out, I'm looking for a babysitter. The nearest babysitter is in Colorado, right, which is thousands of miles away. And that babysitter is saying there's nobody looking for babysitters, and I'm thinking, and people who are using it other places. So if you could focus on a tight area, the same way that Facebook focused on universities, one university, then to another, so they could get that network effect going. And that's one of the things. I've never done a network app myself, just for some clients, and that's just one of the things that scares me about those kind of things. Let's see. Let's see. Fist007 says, I was wondering, what GUI framework do you use for your apps development? Or do you write the UI yourself? So we do, it depends. So if it's Ionic, we do it in Ionic. We always try to do a prototype. So everything starts with, usually it starts with me and Balsamiq. So I'll start off with Balsamiq. I'll mock something up really quick. And so I can show the client, or a lot of times it's on a whiteboard. It depends if we're in person on a whiteboard, and I'll sketch things out. But nobody can read my handwriting. Nobody can understand. It's almost like it's in my head. I'm like doing, and there's a button here, and there's a hamburger menu up here, and there's this over here, right? And nobody can read anything. So a lot of times I'll open up Balsamiq and I'll do that. I'll do some flow charts, and then it will go to, usually then we'll give it to our designer and he'll give a mock-up. So a mock-up, just something that they can see what it would look like, so that even though it might not be the final look, because they should have some, like the client should have some input on it, right? And then at that point we go into, when we get the project, then we do a Adobe XD prototype, so we just kind of get the look and the feel of it, because we used to do design at the end, and that would delay the project, where we'd have a client that would say, I want this app to be perfect, and they would see it and they go, actually, let's move this over here, let's do this. So it makes some changes here and there, and that really makes it difficult. Oh, I was supposed to give a demo to somebody today. I was supposed to send something out to somebody today. Oh, write that down. So we use Adobe XD, but then it depends on it. So like if it's a native Android app, we'll usually just use the standard XML stuff. I like when we do it Corona. I kind of like Corona, and I like Corona and Flutter for the same reasons, because you don't have drag and drop. You don't have to go into some other way of doing things, the way that you do even like JavaScript and HTML. HTML is a different language than JavaScript, and it's kind of just, it's like disconnected. When you have that a lot of places, you have it in like Silverlight, you'd have or Silverlight or WPF, you'd have the XAML, and then you would have the code behind. So a lot of stuff, you have that kind of stuff, and I never like that. I like languages where I just have one language and do the GUI that way. And sometimes I'll do that in Java as well. So I'll just draw the things in the code, but then it's easier just to use that the XML format. So, but that's just what I do. I don't know if anybody else does something different. DS Bailey says Pokemon seems to be the only really successful example of AR. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of it, like really good examples that have taken off, but I can't think of any. Roy Ford says, I use the AR books by Carlton, Dinosaurs, Bugs, etc. for class. I also made an Animal Alphabet AR app, but didn't do anything with it. Oh, cool. Let's see. Discovery Professor says, I want to beat my... Discovery Center says, I want to beat my professor. CH Development, I am a self-taught programmer, also and proud of it. Yeah, I think most... we use the term self-taught programmer, right? Even though we use books and videos, and we use other sources of information, but I think we're all self-taught at some way. This is one of the things about going to a. So when I was my first tech job, I would sign up for every class. So they would have these courses that people could sign up for. So they needed Java developers. So they said, we're going to send some people on a 5-day Java course. Is anybody interested? And I'd always say, yeah, I'm interested. So I went on a 5-day Java course, which was cool because it was like on the other side of London. It didn't, a few of us went to it. It usually finished at around 3 or 4, as opposed to my normal day of finishing at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, or even later. So it was like an easier day, but it still moved really, really slow. I mean, we moved at the pace of the slowest student. Whereas, and I found out it cost something like £1,000 or something to send me to one of these courses, and it just seemed like a ridiculous price. And some people say, well, some people just learn better in a classroom situation. And I'm glad I'm not one of those, because I could not afford it. So like I could buy a book for like, I could buy a book for 20, 30, 40 pounds, whatever, and it would give me far more information if I just sat down and read it, if I forced myself to sit down and read it. And one of the best things I did back in like 1999, 2000, was I read the JavaScript Bible. And it was like this huge book, and it was talking about all kinds of things that I'd never seen anybody actually do. I have since, but at the time, like including array, like putting things into arrays and using JavaScript like a proper programming languages, because most of the time all I'd ever seen it is in web pages where they say if textbox1.text is equal to empty space, then alert, you need to enter a first name, that kind of stuff. So I got really good at JavaScript a little bit early on, and then when it really took off with Node.js, well, it wasn't Node.js, it was like jQuery, Node.js, people started looking at JavaScript like a proper language, and it just all these frameworks that broke off from all that kind of stuff, but it was all starting with that being self-taught, right? And everything, everything does. I mean, you have to have that internal motivation to learn in order to be taught. So you have to almost, even if you're sitting in a classroom and you have to teach yourself because it moves so slow. Let's see. Discovery Center says, really, I want to be a heeker. Discovery Center, what is a heeker? Did I miss that? Have you said that already? Hello, made it. Hello, Cooper says, hello, made it to the city yet? Let's swap our homes, lol. So it's just about living out in the, so Cooper, you said in the one of the comment, you said in one of the comments earlier today, it seems like a peaceful area rather than being a big city. And I always liked being in a big city. I always saw myself as living in a city when I grew up. Well, growing up in San Diego is San Diego's a big city, but it's not like I mean, it was out in the suburbs. It's a sprawled out like a lot of the West Coast cities. There, very few of them are really concentrated like London or New York or something like that. So I mean, it's spread out a lot, but it's also the kind of place where you go someplace, you're probably not going to run into anybody you know, right? And around here, it happens a little bit more. Not so much to me. I still have people ask with my accent, how long am I over here for? Am I on vacation or on holiday or whatever? But what gets me, okay, so this is one of the things that gets me. I tend to be a creature of habit. So when I opened up a Domino's in town and I started going there quite frequently. And when they started calling me Eric when I walked in, it creeped me out. I would rather just be like a random guy, right? Who just, and they say, oh, hey, Eric, what is it going to be today? The usual? And I'm thinking, oh, man, I have a usual. One time at Christmas time, the people at Subway gave me a Christmas card when I walked in, and I don't even make small talk with them, and they gave me a Christmas card going, hey, to the guy who always orders the same thing or whatever. It was a nice card, but it was still kind of like, man, maybe I don't come to Subway too often. But it's just like, I'm just used to just being anonymous, just being able to walk the streets and that kind of stuff. So Hidayat Ullah Khan says, I'm also a self-taught programmer and proud of it. Currently working as an Android developer, also working on Node.js and Angular. Cool. Hamza Bachar, hey, how's it going? Bala Murali Therapi says, hi, Eric, which language you will use to develop if a client asks to develop a catalog Android app? Most of the time, if the client doesn't specify the language, most of the time they don't. Most of the time they will say, they say they want an app. And if they only wanted an Android, that makes things easier, but that doesn't influence the decision. If they say they only want an Android, I don't just go straight to native, because I'd rather use something else if I can. It all depends on what the app does, what kind of if I can find out what kind of features they may want in the future. What kind of infrastructure do they have? So something like a hybrid application works well in a lot of situations, but it's like if they have something that communicates. So like we have an application that communicates via Bluetooth, like really fast transactions with the physical device, and we have to make sure that works. That's really responsive. And in a hybrid application, I didn't think it would be able to work in a hybrid application. So we were looking at going native. In the end, I did do it in a hybrid application, and it works fine. It works really, really well. But things like that's the kind of concerns that I have. It's if somebody wants a game and they want like a lot of animations in it, then hybrid's not the way to go. Even native application's not the way to go, right? And usually, even if somebody says, I only want Android, it's only a matter of time before they come back and they say, I want iOS. Except if it's for a company and all of their staff are given Android phones to use. So they all have a specific build. Like, let's say we're going to buy a whole bunch of Galaxy S8s and we're going to give it to the staff. Some old Galaxy S8s, and we're going to give it to all the staff, and everyone uses the same one. That's the easiest because it's just testing. Most of the time, it's like when we talk about supporting different versions, like if we code core Android, it should work on all Android versions, but we can't test all of them. So it's easy if they could specify which version, which doesn't happen very often, but they can. So let's see. Make Technology Channel. Hey, how's it going? Hey, I'm a game developer. How do I grow my game? Well, do you mean how do you make it, or how do you grow it in terms of users? John K says, in a previous video you mentioned Toastmasters. How long have you been in Toastmaster? How has it helped you with running Overpass? Okay, so Toastmasters I've been in for a year. I think it's been exactly a year. I think it was in March last year that I joined. And the reason I joined, so at the beginning of 2018, I was doing the videos on the daily. I was doing it 5 days a week. And a lot of the criticisms I would get in the comments were about how often I say, and I'm rambling and that type of thing. And it really started to bother me, where every time I started to watch it, I started to hate the way that I sounded, the way that I talk. And I started reading books on voice. So like, I read books on everything. You'd be like, I'm the kind of person who thinks I could find a book on how to do this, or I'll check Amazon to see if I can find out some information on this. And so I read Roger Love's voice, vocal power. Actually, no, it was an Audible audiobook. But then I subscribed to his course, which was like, I think it was $49 for his course. And I was doing the practices of the Roger Love thing to accentuate my voice a little bit more, because I thought if I'm going to do the videos, I need to get a little bit better at speaking. So I started to focus a little bit more on that. But then I saw Toastmasters, and I'd heard about Toastmasters years before with Brian Tracy, listening to a Brian Tracy thing, and they talk about Toastmasters, and it just sounded like kind of a thing I wouldn't really be interested in. But I looked into it, and I didn't see anything in England at the time. This was like early 2000s. And then last year I saw something in Oxford, and I just went down there and participated, and then I went to a few of them. I've given about 5 speeches, I think. Yeah, I've given us 5 speeches, and it's helped me in terms of just being able to think a little bit more on my feet and stop saying as often, or at least trying to catch myself when I do it. I know it slips out sometimes, and the ums are there and the ahs, but it's difficult when you do the video every day. And so this past week, you may notice the video started to look a little bit different over the last few days. That's because I started editing them again, right? We had Marvin on the team who's doing a really good job of editing it, but he was not able to keep up with it. And there's been a few mistakes here and there, but that's because he's got loads of other stuff on. So I thought, okay, I'll take over that again. So I went back into editing it. Before that, so for like 3 or 4 months, he was doing the editing. But before that, it was always me. And a few other people would help out from time to time. I had a staff member who helped out for a few months, but I did that. And there's something when you edit the video every day and you watch yourself, you start to see everything you do wrong. So I started to go to the gym more often. I started to lose a little bit of weight. I started putting hair products in my hair, so I get my hair cut more often. Start trying to do things just because you start to pick out the things that you do wrong. You're your biggest critic, and every time I see this, I think, God, I sound terrible when I said that, or I should have said that again. And I could tell when it starts to really get to me, because I'll do too many takes when I do the video. So you guys only see the end bit, and sometimes there'll be like 3 or 4 where I just go, oh, God, I said that wrong, or I did this, or I'll start again. So the Toastmasters has helped me a little bit just to improve that side of it. Also, I started to change my wardrobe a bit just over time. I got to the point where I thought, maybe as a 46-year-old man, wearing a Captain America t-shirt and flip-flops is not the way that I want to look to the world. So I thought maybe I should start dressing a little bit better, wearing better clothes, lose a little bit of weight, do some sit-ups, that kind of stuff. And Toastmasters was all part of that. And I think it's just being able to be very, very critical of myself when I see those daily videos. It's almost like I'm going through this midlife crisis just because I see those videos. So let's see. I know it takes me a while to get to these questions. I really appreciate you guys' patience here. Agadao Aika says, Eric, can you look at my app on Play Store? I really don't understand why people don't use and discover my app. Can you look and give me some feedback, please? Yes. Can you just let me know what the name is? I mean, I don't know if people understand what my app do. I don't know if it's clear on the Play Store. Okay, so you put a Hang on, that link has been removed, so let me just do that. So this is, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, Goodell. This is Goodell's application here. Let's see, screen share. This is called Feedlist Custom News Feeds. Okay, so discover posts in Explorer feed. Okay, I'm going to look at this just as if I'm a user going through, and not to be overly critical. I'm looking at it as a user. Like, would I be able to figure out what it does? So just based on what you said, news, curiosities, create and customize your feeds, try beautiful night mode. So okay, so night mode is a feature. Okay, so let's talk about features and benefits. And I know we talked about this before. I've probably done 3 or 4 videos on this. But when we do we have to think about if your users are looking specifically for your app. Like if I'm looking for a currency converter, and I already know I want a currency converter, I don't need to be sold on the fact that I need a currency converter because that's what I'm looking for. Then at that point, the features would make sense. Always up to date, features 5,000 currencies or 544 currencies, whatever it is, however many there are. Save your favorite currencies, that kind of stuff. Those are features, and if I know what I'm looking for, that's good. There's already a market there, and I'm interested in the features. But if I don't know what I'm looking for, and I happen to stumble across something, or you have something that's a bit unique, then the benefits are what I'm going to want to look for. So for this, discover posts in Explorer feed. So where do these posts come from? How is this different from any of the other ones that how is this different from Flipboard would be my first question, or one of the other things, because it would be and how is that? So discover posts in Explorer feed. I'm trying to think what would be. See, that one I'm not sure about. News, curiosities, customize your feeds. Feedlist, custom news views. So let's have a think about this. What would be the benefit? Now, I don't know very much about newsfeed apps, except I use Flipboard. I've used other RSS feeders in the past. Is it something that can we say something like? And again, I'm trying to think. Everybody's unique, and everybody has their own news that they want to see. You know, cut out the news you don't want to see. Focus only on the stuff that you're interested in. Get rid of all the bad news and only see the good news. See the positive things. Be more involved with your world. Be up to date with current events. All these kind of things are the benefits. So I'm trying to think what's unique about these benefits, which is what I'm having trouble with here. So let's say you have the discover posts in your Explorer feed. Already we're talking about features. So you have Explorer feed, and we don't know where those come from. And that's kind of where I'm. That's kind of where I would go with this. So feed list, custom news feeds. Let's just do a Google search. Actually, let's check this on App Annie, because Google Play. So we've got, you're on version 2.2.9. Wow. Okay. Wait. Let's go back to this. Wait. So you got 500 plus installs. You're on 2.2.9. So it's been out a while. You got in-app products of 139. Custom news feeds based on location. Permissions, view details. You got in-app purchases, parental guidance. Requires Android 4.4. Okay, so go down to the ASO section here, and we have no keywords. what? Okay, so there's I've never seen no keywords there before. So we need to think about, what does the app do that's unique? Why would somebody be interested in it, and what benefits does it give them? Right? And from that we have to think about who we're targeting with it. So let's say if let's find a target user. Let's say the target user is millennials who just need to know what's important, right? Let's say it doesn't have to be millennials. Yeah, let's say millennials. Let's say your grandpa read the newspaper every day. You have a fast-moving life. You don't have time to do that. You only need to see what's important, and you need to get on with the rest of your life. So you need something like the custom news feeds, so you can see what's important to you and cut out all the rest, right? And that would be something that would be, I mean, we would shorten that to some sort of tagline, but something that would, and I'm trying to think how this is different than Google News also. So does anybody else have anything else to add on that? So it's, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but like I would focus on this. So you don't have to have the screenshots of the application itself. You can have, I mean, you should have the screenshots, but you don't have to. So you could have something like people looking at, if you target your demographic. So right now I'm looking at something, I'm not really sure how it helps me. I'm not sure how it's different than Google News, how it's different than Flipboard, how it's different than some of the other ones. So is that helpful at all? Like if we were to say, if we were to target it at a specific group of people, then we could customize it to this. But this looks like it's a lot of things to a lot of people, and we're focusing on the features and not on the benefit in the audience. So the benefit in the audience would be, who is it targeting? What kind of thing would they like to see, etc. So, and I'm sorry I can't be a little bit more exact on that one. So, but let me know what you think. Goodell. It's Goodell, isn't it? Sorry, I keep saying it wrong. Okay, so let's see. Victor Merrick says, am I right that you build apps for iOS and Android as well? Are you using Swift or Java or cross-platform programming language? So most of the time, Victor, try to use a cross-platform programming language, just because it's easier and we can deploy to both at the same time. We can keep costs lower for clients, but sometimes we need to do things in native. And it depends a little bit on, because I'll try to outsource as much as I can, and every so often we'll say, okay, let's do this one in native, so we'll have to have the native iPhone and the native Android. My preference is always to do Swift. I mean, I don't see any reason to use Objective-C. I've done Java myself, so I've got a lot of times my involvement using either, let me go back to the full screen here. A lot of times my involvement using either Java or Swift is usually not at the beginning of the project. Usually it's like at the end, where it's just we're tweaking things, or something's not working the way that it should and I'm troubleshooting something, or the client comes back and says, should we just move this thing over here, or could we add another parameter onto this, or we could add another form field on here that saves the database. And usually that's a bit where rather than get all the developers involved again and all the questions and all the testing, I'll just do that part myself, because I could do that at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday and just get it out by the Saturday, rather than have to go through the whole rigmarole. So that's that's a lot of the stuff that I do myself. But when it comes to native, I've never done a Kotlin project. We've done some Swift, done a lot of Objective-C. And mainly the reason we do Objective-C is because it's legacy stuff that people are bringing to us. It's like, can you fix my Objective-C app? Right? So, and a lot of Java stuff too. So, let's see. Fist007 says WinForms, POWAAA. I think it's WinForms. Power! Victor Merrick says, which database do you use for storing data offline and on the web? So offline we use SQLite. Almost always use SQLite. Sometimes we use local storage. So if it's an Ionic application, we were using local storage, which is a part of the browser. for Cordova-based applications. But we found that on the iOS side especially, when the disk space started to run low, it will start to clear all the caches on the browsers, which included the Ionic application. So, which is was like a known issue. So what they say is use something like SQLite. So we were actually taking what we were setting in local storage and putting into SQLite, because at least then it was a lot safer and didn't get cleared out. When it comes to, but sometimes we'll just save it as JSON files. Depends on the structure of the data and how we need to do it. For online, it depends on this. A lot of times it'll depend on the client. My preference is to use Firebase and NoSQL using Firebase, just because I like cloud functions. We've done MongoDB stuff before using Mongoose with Node.js, which is okay. And you do MySQL a lot too. I still like MySQL. It depends on what kind of data it is. So a lot of times we have stuff that we have to report on. I prefer using MySQL. Like if it's just naturally tabular data, I'd rather go the SQL route, go MySQL, and you've got all that support there. You've got loads of libraries that support it. And of course, my background was using SQL Server a lot, which I loved using stored procedures. But now it's mostly MySQL. MySQL on the server, SQLite on the client, and unless we're doing something that we're using NoSQL. So an example of what I'm talking about, something if I need to have like a lot of calculations, or I need to query things on the server, then I just want to have it in MySQL. I don't want to write a bunch of loops or a bunch of weird code that does stuff. And but if you have something where the data has to be flexible, for example, you add custom fields to a form dynamically at runtime. So like a CRM system, for example. I worked on a CRM system which was done in SQL Server, and they were not able to add extra fields for their clients. So what they did was they would have a table, like say say like the person table. They would have 20 extra fields at the end of the table, which they had no name. So it was like user defined 1, user defined 2, user defined 3, just so they can use those in code and figure out what those were, because it didn't really lend itself to be flexible like that. And I tried to rewrite the entire thing using an entity framework. So I'd have an entity table and a values table, key value pairs, and everything was really flexible. Get add as many fields as you want to, and I thought I just solved everything, and it just ran like a dog. It was so slow. So that's one thing that NoSQL does really well. If I want to add an extra parameter, I can actually add an extra parameter. I could do that. But when it comes to reporting, if reporting's not that important, then that's good for that kind of stuff. But you guys might disagree with that, by the way. So John K says, what do you do for the privacy policy in terms of service for client apps? Legally, it seems that both the PP and TOS should be customized per the app's features, or is it something more general? Fine. To be honest with you, John, I put that to them. I said I just need terms and conditions, and then they send me a link, and I don't think it's specific to their application. So, but like we haven't had any clients that have ads in their apps. Yeah, we haven't. Most of the time, it's like companies where we do in-app purchases. So yeah, so you're right though. We should probably make it. It slows the whole process down. Like I'm not going to write terms and conditions and stuff like that. So it's the kind of thing that they have to do, because I don't know how they're going to use their data. So, but I just ask them to produce it, and I'll send them a bit of information on what they're supposed to give, and then they'll give me something. Because usually it's at the end. Usually it's at that last point where we're ready to go live. Okay, we're putting this thing live today, and then I go in there and it says, oh, you need terms and conditions. Like, at that point, which ideally I should give like at the beginning, saying, oh, we're going to start working on this. You need to start thinking about the terms and conditions. But I have never done that. It always catches me at the end. Glenn Ferris has something here that was hidden. Why? Would you ever do a video where you review, critique subscriber apps? We could ask you to review the app, and you could comment on design, monetization, and offer advice. Yeah, Glenn, I've thought about that, and a lot of people ask me about that. I just think that there would be so many that I wouldn't be able to get to all of them, and it would be like, this is one of the things that the live stream is for, so that we can go through and do all these. And it's not, I'm putting out one video which is about one person's app, and we do a critique of it, and then another. So I mean, we could easily fill up every single day talking about that stuff. And I think some people might not find that very interesting, or maybe they would, but it would almost be like it's really hard to get to put attention on each and every single one of them. And I've had people say that, can you promote my app on your channel? Can you review my app on your channel? Can you do that? But I don't even review my own apps. You've never seen me go on here and say, okay, today I'm going to show you guys how my app works and what it does, right? So I could promote it and I get people to download it, mainly because I think everybody would find that boring unless they were actually looking for that application. So that's one of the reasons why I don't. But if you think it would be good, I mean, it would be something I'd consider, but I just don't know. I mean, because there are days, and you could probably tell which days these are, where I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about that day. Like, what am I going to talk about today? My entire life is like I'm like walking around going, oh, what should I talk about today? Oh, that would be good. I'll be in the gym, or I'll be on a run, and I'll stop and I'll put something on my phone, or I'll be like driving or in the shower, which means I have to remember it before. So I'll write down like a Google Keep list. So I just make this list of stuff that I could go to, and then occasionally I'll get an email and I'll put it in a special folder, so I'll have something to talk about. But it would be something that I would consider doing, but I just don't know if everybody would find that interesting. And plus, it would not be like, it wouldn't be the kind of thing where I can say, yeah, this is great. This is another reason why I've had people ask me whether or not I will do sponsored app reviews. So, can I pay you to review my app on your channel? And I always think, no, because then I would have to say all good things about it, and I would have to be disingenuous. I would have to be like, if I didn't like something, I would say I didn't like something, and I would feel bad about it if you were paying me to do it. That's another reason why I don't. But that's the reason why. I have thought about it a lot, though, Glenn. Vikram Sentil says, how much can I earn if I have 10 apps in the Play Store and each has 1,000 downloads? That's not enough information. We did a video about this before. We have to look at how are you monetizing, how many, if you're using ads, how many impressions you're doing, if you have in-app purchases, there's so many things that come into play. It's like it has nothing to do with the number of downloads. Nothing. It has everything to do with the number of impressions or the number of purchases, things like that. But the more downloads you have, the more impressions you get. So you can't have one without the other, but that's just not enough information to go on, I'm afraid, Vikram. CH Development says, Eric, what's your average daily AdMob impressions? I'm going to tell you what they are. I'm not allowed to show you. I'm not allowed to say. Let me just say what it is. I'll say how many I had yesterday, but I won't tell you my RPMs or my total, so you can figure out my RPMs. It's ever since I found out I'm not allowed to say that, I don't want to mess with Google. I do not want Google to remove my AdMob. So I don't say anything. A lot of people say, what's your RPMs? And I can't say that because it's against terms and conditions. So yesterday, let's see. Yesterday I had 75,000 requests, 69% match rate, 32,000 impressions. Yeah, so yesterday I had 32,000 impressions. So, I mean, it's quite a lot, but my ECPM is okay. It wasn't great yesterday. So, and I can't tell you what that was, I'm afraid. So, let's see. Tech guy, hey, how's it going? Let's see. Subhashish says, Subhasish says, hey Eric, was wondering, will you please talk about the Android stacks a new developer can learn in 2019? So, when you say in 2019, I think just knowing the fundamentals of Android would be good. There's always new things coming out. Yesterday, and I got a video on this coming up, I think tomorrow, where I talk about foldables. Because a couple weeks ago, you guys were asking me what I thought about the Galaxy Fold, and I hadn't really looked into it, but I have been looking into foldables and how that's going to affect the development. So when you have the front screen of the device and you open up the phone, unfold the phone either on the outside or the inside, at that point there's almost like a session state, and it recreates the thing. So you have to change the code a little bit to be able to counter that, to cater for that if you don't already. That's the kind of things where I think you could be the expert on if you get into it, but that's almost like, that's way up here. Like, in order to get there, you have to learn the basics of Android, learn basics of how it all works, put some applications out there, and always do the latest thing. So like when somebody says, "I use Objective-C or Swift," I think you should go for Swift, right? Just because it's the latest thing. Objective-C is, I don't know if they're going to phase it out, but it's old. There's like a jillion Objective-C developers out there, and I guess there's a lot of Swift developers out there now, but if you were a Kotlin developer, you could be probably one of the few, although, so John K says, do you offer app maintenance for your clients, or you just hand over the app and are done with them? Now we do app maintenance. So we usually do like we'll do a warranty period of like 30 days. So if they find a bug after 30 days, but then if they come back with a bug afterward, usually if it's a bug, I'll fix it, right? If it's an enhancement, not. But then we do an extended warranty so that we could fix things as they come up. And again, we have to make sure that they know the difference between a bug and a feature. So if they want something new, that's a feature, so they would have to do that. So most of the time, if it's something that we've worked on before, we can do it easily. Now we have done projects where somebody's come to us and said, and we've done this a lot actually, or somebody comes and says, look, my old developers suck. I hate them. I want them dead. I don't want to ever work with them again. Can you take over this app? And part of me goes, yeah, maybe. But then I got to think, was it the developer or was it the client? And then you got that part. Because I know I've taken on at least one project where they were like talking about how bad their previous developer was. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll come in and be the hero and all this. Okay, don't worry. I'll take care of it for you, whatever. And then that client drove me crazy, right? I'm thinking, I almost felt like I should be joining the older developer who they got rid of, who was complaining about them, and just go, dude, I know what you guys are talking about. So sometimes there's that, but a lot of times it has to do with communications, and you have developers who genuinely want to do a good job, and you're just getting that across to them. But if they don't understand what you're talking about, you don't understand what they're talking about. But sometimes you do have guys that are just lazy, right? So yeah, we have done that a lot. I get that a lot where they say, oh, I just need to get rid of these other developers. The problem is, and this is the big problem I have, and I know there's people out there who are waiting for me to come back on where they sent me the code and I need to have a look at it. The thing that concerns me is a lot of times we are, well, I hope that we are more expensive than their previous developers. So if somebody has gone to a developer and they were able to get like this really big system like dirt cheap, and then they have problems with it, and then they come to me, and then I say, okay, and they say, this is 80% of the way, or this is 90% of the way done, I just need you to do the last 10%, and I end up quoting something which is almost as much as the whole thing they paid, then that's like, there's a disconnect there. Like, it's already, the expectations, like I can't meet those expectations. I can't work at, because when they say it's 90% of the way done, I'm looking at thinking, well, we still need to get up to speed with this code, which is not great. We need to figure out how it works. There's all kinds of things there. So I'm like, that's something that it's worked for us in the past, and it hasn't worked for us in the past. There's been projects where I've been here at 2 o'clock in the morning working on something because I can't afford to hire anybody else to work on it, and I promised something to a client that a previous developer they had worked on, and which was terrible, and I said, yeah, we could fix it, and nobody could do it, and it was just me. So like rewriting whole things, just losing money on the project because I'm doing it, and the reason I'm doing it myself is because I can't afford to give it to anybody else. I can't afford to pay them to work on it. It's like, all right, it's gonna be me, and then I'm just gonna be like, I'm just not gonna do any more on this in the future. So but Mega Man 2016 says, Eric, what would you say your job title is? I think I am a Captain Admiral of the app. My job, I've been asked this a lot. This is a lot because I was applying for changing my car loan. What is your job title? Director. I guess I'm a director. I guess my official title is director. I'm the director of Overpass, but it just seems like a dumb title. So I always just say I make apps. Right? Even as a contractor, I've never been that big in the job titles, and mainly it's because I've seen people who are just so obsessed with their job title, where if somebody tried to change it or if somebody got it wrong, they would completely correct them because that was their thing. I've also worked in a place where they wanted to give me a promotion. Eric, we're going to give you a promotion. And I was just so unhappy working there, so they thought they would give me a promotion. So they said, we're going to make you the web developer and client services specialist, right? Whereas before I was just a web developer, and they said this is a promotion because it's a new job title. And I said, is there going to be any money more? It sounds like more responsibility. Is there more money involved? They said, no, unfortunately not. But it's a, and I thought, well, the title doesn't matter, right? The title doesn't matter. It's what we produce that matters, and that's why I've never been that interested in it. So, Vikram, sorry. Lost my place. Vikram says, I'm an Android developer. What animation tools or frameworks can be used to improvise my app design and look, not for gaming apps? To improvise it. Graphics and designing tools. I don't know. We always use Adobe. Well, what do we do? Like I said, we use Adobe XD, but we use Illustrator to produce the graphics. A lot of times it is just... Most of the time, like if we start, we'll just start with just standard buttons and things like that, and then the designer will. Ideally, the designer, we already have a design idea in mind. So for me, if the client has made a decision that yes, I like this design, and I can see it, it makes my job so much easier. All I have to do is go in and just. Okay, background color blue. What shade of blue is that? I'll bring it into Photoshop and use the eyedropper tool. Oh, that's whatever, FF00, whatever. And then I'll find the hex value, and then I'll go through and do that. And my whole thing is like looking at that, make this look there. Move up 2 pixels, move down 2 pixels, just do that kind of stuff. And that's how I do it. So, but then I also have a designer on the team, so it helps if I could go to the designer and say, I need a button, I need a thing over here, so I need a new icon, etc. So, let's see. Roy Ford says, do you know how long it takes App Annie to update the ASO keyword stats? I don't. Or how long it takes to jump up the ranks? I'm kind of guessing it's how long it's a piece of string. I don't really know. John K says, in an older video, you mentioned you try to stick to the 4K to 10K range when you're charging clients. Why so low? For a 10K job, how much do you try to make from that? This is one of the reasons I have a lot of videos where I will not say what the price is because of this reason. So like now we're doing more than that because we got more overheads, we're trying to do a better job, we're trying to put more people in there, QA, testing, and just being able to provide a better service. So I should probably find those videos and remove them. And this is one of the reasons why I would never do it. People are always saying, how much would it cost to do this? How much would it cost to do that? And I say, if you ask me in a privately, I will tell you, I'll give you a ballpark, but I don't want to say it publicly because it's a lot of other things that come in place. And when people are comparing, like if somebody goes back and says, oh, you said it before 4K to 10K, right? And now you're saying 15. That's one of the reasons why I don't, right? And I would love to be able to do fixed price type things, but the cost of things go up over a while. But you're right, John, it is low. Yeah, but how much, so for a 10K job, how much do you try to make from that? Yeah, for a 10K job, it depends, because it's not just that. It's not just outsourcing it. It's also getting the designer work, the meetings. A lot of times, like, there are other variables at play here, like how many meetings you're going to have, how often is a phone going to ring with a question. There have been times where we have a new prospect, and over the course of 3 days they come back with 3 changes that are new ideas that they've had. That's the kind of thing that I don't want to touch. Like if somebody says, all right, I got this app and I want to do it, it does this, this, and this, and the next day they go, I just got a new idea for the app. How about we add this on there as well? And then the next day, hey, how about we do this? That's something that I don't want to touch that, because I think we need to go away and write this down, because this needs to be put down on paper, and it's not it's not a brainstorming session. It's my job is to build it, but I love to do the brainstorming, but we do that one time and then we draw a line under it, right? Because scope creep happens when somebody calls you up and says, I was talking to my friend Steve, and Steve says we should have this, right? And I was like, well, I don't know who Steve is, but Steve should have been there at the beginning when we were designing the project, right? And I was like, I've talked to my friend Larry. I was like, Larry's not, okay, look, Larry, so this is what happens. And it happens in companies too. It happens all the time in companies. I've had this I've had this happen when I was a contractor. When I went into a place, and the first thing I did was I wrote up a specification on how this bit of software that I was going to produce for them was going to work. And I did all these wireframes. I used Balsamic, all these wireframes, this, there, flow charts, etc. Yeah, all this stuff. It went through them. They said, that looks great. Yeah, that's really great. And they had a few suggestions, whatever. And then as I'm building it, as I get towards the end, they go, we should show this to Mark, because Mark's the one who's actually going to be using this. And Mark came in, and Mark wanted to add his 2 cents to the thing, and everything changed. And then the managing director came in and said, I don't understand why this app isn't finished yet, because you said it would be done by this thing. And I thought, well, that's because Mark came in and changed everything. You know, and what I should have done was put my foot down when they did that, but I didn't. I was just trying to keep the client happy, and it was a mistake on my part, and it was like all of a sudden everything was Eric's fault. Everything's Eric's fault all the time. So let's see. Suresh says, you can say that Feedlist app like 60 new words or something like that, because I know someone who's using a local news app and it will work. Okay. Andre Bischer says, "Hi, I'm new here. What are the lives about?" Not sure. Frank Todd, hey brother, hey Frank, how's it going? Mega Man says, do you give your developers style guides or coding conventions to follow to make it easier when bringing on new people? We did have coding guidelines, and we need to do that again, because that's something that I'm a firm believer of, is having coding standards. So things should be done consistently each way. And but we have a lot of documentation. We have a lot of documentation on how to do daily summaries, how to do the invoicing, how to do certain parts of the job. So we have a lot of stuff like that. But in terms of code, no. Most of the time we have a designer, and the designer kind of sets the tone of how things should look in terms of design. But like, I know what you're talking about in code, right? There are certain things. A lot of times it'll be, we should have it documented, but a lot of times it's just me jumping in there saying, actually, this here should be a function. This should be like its own separate class, and this is, I don't know why you're duplicating this code here when it's already over here, that kind of stuff. So, which it should be its own document. You're absolutely right. That's one of the things where I preach coding standards and coding documentation, but a lot of times it's just sitting down to write that thing out. But you can also find really good examples online. So just as long as everyone's consistently doing things. Andre Bischer says, oh, I know what the channel's about. I saw a lot of them 1 hour long. This is the first one I catch live. Is this like a Q&A? Yeah, I guess it is like a Q&A. Goodell Ika says, I'm very grateful to all of you. Just to understand that people do not even understand what my app does. Now I know I should improve this. Yeah, I think, but yeah, it's good that you make that change. My idea of an app is like, the idea of my app is new. I've never seen anything like it before. I think it makes me have to focus on showing people what it is and what it does. Yeah, absolutely. And I think having a video in there might be good too, if you can. So if it's completely new, then you're going to have to educate them on how it works and what it does and the benefits of it. Let's see. Michael says, are you guys getting any traction with Flutter yet? You know what? This is one I have to give a mea culpa here. So I haven't done anything on Flutter yet. I mean, I've started lots of stuff on it. It seems like it seems like every time I start a new technology, I'll do like loads of projects, and then I'll just do it for like a couple days, and then I just sort of, it kind of goes off on the wayside. I learn a lot doing it, but I just don't have that drive to finish it. So let's see. Biswajit says, why search results of Play Store on PC are different from mobile? Somebody's mentioned that before, and I've never noticed. So I have no idea, unless you're like in a different region. But I haven't checked it myself, so I don't have my Android phone powered on over here. So otherwise I would check it now. Let's see. Ged Onorai says, hi Eric. Hey, how's it going? Hi, hey Eric. 1 or 2 months ago, my app on top search after that automatically go to 3rd or 4th position. What to do? Thanks. In Play Store. I I've had that too. You're not always going to be on top. Sometimes it'll fluctuate. You'll go up and down, and which is cool. Like my app was top for like ages, and then when it went to second or third, I think it's third now for the term spy, and one of the copycats has overtaken it, which bothers me to no end. But that's just going to happen. I mean, there's going to be other apps that come in and they're going to be able to take over from you. What you could do is try to get more reviews, try to look at what they're doing right and how you could get in there. We have a similar thing on YouTube where I was looking at, I was really proud of the fact that if you do UK app developers, it's one of our videos comes up at the top, right? But then for like last several months, there's been another company, and they only have like one video, and their company comes up at the top, and I thought, oh, what are they doing? So we have the guy that I hired is doing ASO and SEO. His name is Neil. He's working on doing that, targeting a little bit better, getting our videos up to the top, and we also do that same thing with the Google Play results. So you have to look at Google Play results. Is it the backlinks? Is it the reviews? For some reason Google is finding the other ones more relevant for those search terms. And why is that? And how can you make yours more relevant for that? Mega Man, have you ever used any of these JavaScript static site generators or having a backend instead of having a backend CRM? JavaScript site generators? No, I don't know what that is. Fist007 says, have you built any advanced inventory management system, mobile apps or anything else, and what problem did you solve? No, we haven't done an inventory management system. We've done other things that were similar, so where we connect to a back end so they could do, so like an example of one was, we don't have the NFC tags. We just tap something and you can just do that, or or you scan barcodes. We've done a couple where we scan barcodes and it feeds into a back end system, and that way. But it wasn't necessarily for inventory, because when I think of inventory, I think about counting a bunch of stuff. But it wasn't so much for inventory, but it was more tracking products, which I guess maybe is the same thing. Let's see. Morand here says, why did you sell the horse? Because I needed to get a car. Yeah, it was just, yeah, the Mustang thing. I've been kind of in mourning this week, I guess, a little bit. It wasn't so bad after the thing was done. So it was on Tuesday actually that it was Tuesday that made that decision, and I was kind of moping around for a little bit, but then I thought, actually, no, this is a good thing, right? It's really hard when it wasn't so much the money thing, but it was kind of, but it was also like every time I go see a new client, I drive up in that car and it's all conspicuous, and I get out of the car, and you might think, oh, this guy's a really successful guy because he's in a nice car, but part of me thinking, I also don't want to look like I'm charging way too much. Like that's always in the back of my head, right? When I do that. And also, if you guys could get a Mustang, get a Mustang, but it's not. So every time I go someplace, everywhere I go, when I get out of the car, there'd always be some guy who would say, nice car, right? Or something, which was nice, but it was like, still, like, I'm just, like, it goes back to me just being conspicuous, being inconspicuous. Like, I just want to blend in with the crowd, but I really love the car. So, but with some things that I didn't think that I would really appreciate, which I did, was like the leather seats and the heated seats, and there's a lot of things in there which I never thought I would go for as features, that I thought once I got used to them, I missed them. So let's see. Fist007 says, don't remove the videos, just mute the parts you don't need to, and get silenced. Oh yeah, for when I mentioned the price. Khalid Elbaz says, one of my apps ranks higher in Iran. Facebook and AdMob ads don't work in Iran due to politics. That means no impressions from Iranian users. Will that affect my eCPM? If yes, should I ban my app in Iran? I don't think you should ban it. If you're getting downloads there, I think the more the better. So, because it's going to help with the Google rankings. I don't think there's any reason why you should ban your app from another country unless, I can't think of any reason. And I don't think it would affect your eCPM. It will actually, no, it'll affect your eCPM if there's no inventory there or people aren't clicking on the ads. But that doesn't necessarily affect your bottom line, right? It's not, your eCPM is the amount of impressions. eCPM is, it's like miles per hour rather than miles per gallon. Miles per gallon is like how much you're going to make, but miles per hour is, where am I going with this? So like the calculation, what you should be concerned about is the revenue. So if you have like a lot of apps in Iran and the ads are not serving, that doesn't matter, right? You wouldn't be making money from them if they had it or didn't have it, right? That doesn't matter. Now it might change the calculation of the eCPM because it's dividing by the number of impressions, and you have a lot of impressions that don't. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything because you're still getting the same revenue you are from the US and all that kind of stuff. So it's not, they don't take the eCPM and times it by the impression. It's more the other side of it. It's like taking, or the RPMs rather, it's taking the bid price and the bid and everything goes through and the amount that you make and then showing you as an average so you can track how that's going. Be Smart says, Eric, you don't answer me well last streaming. I asked you about expansion file libraries, deprecated method, and Android are a problem. I must change them, or is that a Google thing? Is it deprecated? Because I know that Android is pushing the Android bundle a lot. So being able to release, so doing things as an Android bundle, so it decreases the APK size because it's only downloads what that phone needs. So if you're like if you're on an ARM phone or an x86, is that what it is? If you're on an ARM phone or if you're on a tablet, it doesn't need to download all the assets that it doesn't need from smaller phones and things like that. So you do it as an Android app bundle. I have never done that yet. I have not adjusted my apps to do that. What I have done in the past was take a lot of my graphic assets out of my my games and move them into expansion packs, but I didn't really see that as a benefit at all because it did decrease the size of the APK, but they still had to download everything after it went, and it just sort of added to the process. So in the end, I thought it wasn't really that bad. So I know it's not a very good answer, but I guess I don't know the answer to that really. Gary Yap says, hi Eric, hi all from Malaysia. Hey Gary, how's it going? CH Development says, spy app and a fancy car, and you live in the UK. When are you going to admit that your name is James? So yeah, that was the thing. As a kid, that was my whole thing, was James Bond, and reading all the books. And I never thought I would ever go to England, let alone live in England. But I would read the John Gardner. I wouldn't even read the Ian Fleming ones. I'd read the newer ones, the John Gardner ones, James Bond books, and I thought those were all really cool. And when I went into the army, and they said when they said I could go into military intelligence, that's when I thought James Bond. It'd be like James Bond, and it was nothing like that. So, but yeah, that's kind of my something I've always been interested in. Fist 007, sometimes you have to go down to shift to go faster, and you'll be able to upshift a bit later as you go further. Thanks very much. I saw that comment earlier today, Fist 007. I really appreciate it. Simo Plays says, hi Eric, can you have 2 personal Apple developer accounts on one Mac? Thank you. I don't know. I've never had two personal developer. No. I don't know. I have had, okay, so what I've had, actually, I'm sure you can on a single Mac, because I've had a client before we could get clients to add. So like now you get them to add you as a user, and you just go in and do that. So now when we work with clients, it's like, okay, go into, show them how to do it. Go into users and roles, add my name to it. That way I will show it, so I can just log into iTunes and then just go through and select you as a client, select you, and then I just go to your profile. But before that, we would have to go through and they would give us a username and password. And there's been other times where working with a client that they didn't want their client to know that they were working with us, just because they don't want us to go. I guess it's fear that we'll steal their client away, which I would never do. You always dance with the one who brought you. So but we would do that work. But most of the time, what I would do is I would use Chrome for my normal stuff, for my iTunes account, and I would use Safari or Firefox, whatever, just so that I didn't have to, keep logging out of one and into the other. But I'm pretty sure you could do that. But I've never had 2 of my own iTunes or Apple accounts. I just think that would get so complicated. Rajat says, I think the search results on a PC and mobile are different because of mobile, they can extract several data points like your device's capabilities, app download, etc., download history and all. Oh yeah, that's Rajat. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, on a device, they're going to know what you searched on before because you're already logged in. On a desktop, you may not necessarily be logged in, but I would think that shouldn't affect the rankings, more the suggestions. But yeah, you might be right there. Dario says, how could I improve my store listing? After some changes, I got ranked higher, but it still doesn't run good as I expected. So we're going to look at this for Dario. And I'm going to have to get going here soon. So so I won't be taking any more questions after Max. Thank you very much, Ged, for the 40. Is that dinar? I don't know. One day I'm going to go to. Somebody asked me earlier in the comments, are you going to go to India? And that's one thing I really want to go to India. I've worked with so many people in India. I learned a little bit of Hindi. I took a Hindi course, and I've never been, and I'm going to do that. But let's go through it, and we're going to look at Dario's app here first. So we're still a few minutes away from finishing. But you guys can leave early if you want. I'll let you guys go. You guys can leave before the bell. So like that. German citizenship test in Germany. In German, cool. So Dario, you've got the question. So this is an example of if you're going to go through and if you know you need a citizenship test, then this would be perfect because you just go through and do it. But let's have a quick look to see. And you're using an emoji in the title, which is cool. I don't think that should adversely affect you at all. German citizenship test. So you're here. So you're actually not doing too bad, but how do we stand out from the rest of these guys? German citizenship test. Let's go back. So in German, now I assume that this is localized, so that the only reason I see it saying, the only reason that I see it saying Germany citizenship test is because I'm in the UK and I'm seeing it in my local language. I would imagine if I'm in Germany, I would see it in German. Or if I spoke German, I would see it in German. But yeah, I mean, let's have a look. Let's go back and I want to look at that again. Let's go play.google.com. German citizenship test. Let's look at what the top guy's doing. Oh my God. Oh my God, Dario, you're letting this guy beat you? Sorry. For some reason I thought this would be like really cool looking and we would use this as an example. Let's look at what this guy's doing. I was wrong. All right, so Dario, obviously God, you can beat this guy. So what is he doing? So he's German citizenship test. You got the same ones. He's only got 2 reviews, but why is he showing up first? He's only got 2 reviews. In case of emergency, dual citizenship is the review that he has. Test and the developer name is test number 2233. Yeah, I'm not. This is a weird one, Dario. I see what you mean. I'm wondering if that's because I'm in the UK. What I think the key thing is, what does it look like for you? I mean, where you ranked here? Let's see what the next one looks. Because this is actually a nice icon. Oh no, it's Canadian, but they still rank first for German citizenship. Germany citizenship. See, it's a German citizenship test. So if I do German citizenship test, because one thing is. All right, so I'm looking at this in terms of the English, so I might not even be the target user, but one thing I'm thinking, German citizenship test makes more sense. If I do type in German citizenship test, you're not really coming in here. You're way down here at the bottom because you're using Germany citizenship test. So that would be one thing to do. It bothers me that this one is at the top because I think you could do a lot more. I think you could do, you know, I'm trying to think. How would you target this? What would if I was living in Germany and I needed a citizenship test? What would what would I be searching for? Would I be doing German citizenship test, become a German citizen? Which he still ranks at the top for that too. Does anybody else have any can you use, so Morandir says, can you use the same name? Yeah, I think you could probably use the same name. If not, what I would do is, so like here we got German citizenship test. It's nice. He's got the full thing there. But I would say a German citizenship test, get your, pass your test the first time or something like that. Whatever you can fit into that 50 characters there. And then that's at least unique. So I think that might be. So I don't know if Dario, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, for me, I would think, and I'm wondering if because I'm in the UK, I'm trying to think. I can't remember how to do there's like something I could put in the query string that will show it to me in other languages, but I can't remember what that is. I think it's like HL. Is it HL? Yeah, here we go. Ooh, that was good. So here I can see all the ones it should be in German. Let's go Germany citizenship test. So I don't think the ranking, I think that's just the language. I don't think the rankings are here. So here we go. You got this here. This one is actually, we got a different one going to the top there. There's still, I think there's a lot more you could do here. Even if you had, like, what my whole thing would be looking at the acquisition report. How are people actually landing on your page? Because as I keep going back to the screenshots, I'm looking at the screenshots and I'm wondering if it has anything to do with the screenshots, but that only makes a difference if they're actually going into that page. Here we got 2019. That's a really good idea, actually. So, I mean, not to steal this idea, but like having 2019 would be something that you would be searching for, especially if you don't want to find any old information. Let's look for some other theory tests just so we get some ideas. I'm going to go out of the German one. So I'm just going to say, let's do US citizenship test. I should do UK citizenship test. Who ranks the top for this? Life in the UK test. We got same kind of thing. It's free. It's a really big 2019. They're doing that kind of stuff. I think that's something you could definitely try. Get that in there and do that. So just because that would be something that if I was looking for a citizenship test, that's what I would. So that's what I would look for too. Aiden Mack says, "Hi Eric. I've had an app which I'm just about to update, but because it has taken a while to update, I've had some bad reviews. Currently 3 stars, 40,000 downloads. Am I better off updating or starting fresh?" You're better off updating. Don't start fresh. I was talking to somebody else about this earlier this week. Is it better to start fresh? You could try to start fresh, but I think you're better off updating. You have a few bad reviews. What I would do is as soon as you release that update, is it on Apple? As soon as you release that update, I would go through and respond to those reviews and say, we've just released a new version. I think you're going to be very happy with it. I would love you to have a look at this and then give another review, right? Because anybody who's looking at those reviews, if they're trying to find out why does this have 3 bad reviews, why does this have some bad reviews, then they can see, oh, it's because it's an older version, and you do that. Now on the Apple side, it actually it doesn't show the old reviews as much. So if it's Apple or if it's that, but I would say, if you have 40,000 downloads and you have the reviews, keep at it. You're gonna bring that average up. But if you start afresh, you're gonna just be. I mean, I think you should do the current one. I don't think you should start fresh unless you have to. I've done that before, where I thought I'm just gonna chuck everything out and just start a new one. And then you still get the same traction. You're going backwards, and all you need to do is fix those bad reviews, and you can still respond to them and say, with version 1.3, we've fixed all these issues. I think you're really going to like it. I'd love you to give this another try. But thanks so much for your feedback. Because if they didn't care, they wouldn't leave a bad review. So, and then finally, Max Weber says, "Can I use one merchant account and 2 Play Store accounts?" I don't know. I've never, to be honest with you, Max, I wish I knew the answer to that. I should probably check it, because a lot of people have asked me. A lot of people have asked me about having multiple accounts, and I've never had multiple accounts. I've known one guy who had multiple accounts on Google and on iOS, and he was like, he had multiple bank accounts and everything. And I don't know if that was overkill or if he had to do that, because I've just never done it. So, yeah, that's it. So anyway, for those of you guys who are still remaining, thank you very much for watching the live stream this week. I know it was another long one, but just Q&A, going through stuff. If anybody's actually watched this in replay, wow, I can't believe you watched this entire thing. Show up when it's live. It's a little bit more interesting. And anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow on the daily video, which is going to be about folding phones. And I'll talk to you guys next week on the live stream. Thanks very much. I'll talk to you again later. Bye.
Taking this blindfold off to see what this life's all about. Threw my virtues to the ground, drinking from the devil's cup.